ideally, the best story would be that he doesn't break it tomorrow and he breaks it on the last day on the Champs-Élysées. I keep coming back to this. We talk like Mark Cavendish. He just needs to get to the possibility of a bunch sprint and he's going to win it, right? It's not that easy. It's like, okay, Mark, just win another one tomorrow so you get that out of the way.
Welcome back to JB Squared, Stage 18, last day in the mountains. Wow, what an incredible stage and what a performance we saw today. We'll get into that and break that down. And tomorrow, is it a flat stage? No, not really. Can the sprinters control it? Can De Koenig Quick-Step control it for this historic Cavendish moment? We'll find out from my co-host, Johan Bernil here. I'm JB Hager, and we'll get to all that today. But first, here's Lance with a couple of our sponsors.
Today's episode of JB Squared, which, by the way, is my favorite cycling podcast, true story, brought to you by Oura. Oura is the company behind the smart ring that delivers personalized sleep and overall health insights that help you get into each day feeling rested and ready. They're committed to empowering people to take control of their personal health and daily routines by providing all of this crazy knowledge, whether it's sleep cycles, recovery, activity, it's all right there. Head on over to Oura Ring, O-U-R-A Ring, auraring.com to find out more. Today's show also brought to you by Athletic Greens. This is something that George and I have been getting on really since probably the last week. Full transparency, I'm somebody that just doesn't eat enough greens. People think I probably have a strict diet, but my vegetable game is not good. But what's happened, with Athletic, they've really created a product here that's truly unique. Over 75 absorbable vitamins, minerals, probiotics, superfoods, all in one thing. The other cool thing, I learned this yesterday, is they have reformulated, the whole platform 52 times. So as things evolve and they come across better and better products, they don't just sit tight. They've recreated this 52 times, which I think is just amazing. Also, NSF certified for sport. And then another thing that I have a problem with is deficiency in the vitamin D category. I'm just constantly low in D, which is a problem. And most of the world, believe it or not, is low on vitamin D. So for our listeners, head on over to athleticgreens.com/themove. You get year-round immune support. Also, a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs. That's athleticgreens.com/themove.
All right, Johan, looking forward to this discussion today. And man, if anyone's listening to this and hasn't watched the performance at the end, you have to see what Pogačar is doing. He's just dominant. Mm-hmm. He's just, and a lot of people, including us, are making a lot of comparisons to Armstrong and how he would take the victories, not handing over any gifts. And we saw that again today. Because yesterday on the show, you said maybe he'll gift a win to somebody. That did not happen. So
that's true.
What were you thinking when you saw that?
Yeah, listen, you have to give it. He's a 22-year-old kid. I think as for now, he is just hungry, and for him, winning a stage in the yellow jersey is amazing. And you know what? It's a discussion that can be held, but why should he let somebody else win, right? They didn't give him any gifts. They tried to attack him whenever they could. So winning those 2 mountain stages now in a row, and especially today, a real mountain stage with 2 mythical climbs, the Col de Tourmalet and Luzardiden. Those mountains have been in the Tour de France for as long as anybody can remember. to win there. It's basically saying, okay, you know what? Listen, I'm here. I'm the boss, and this is what's happening. So I cannot say anything else than admiration for him. It's amazing how good of a racer he also is. He makes no mistakes. He just goes whenever he has to. He tries, and then at the end he keeps his cool. He has this incredible acceleration at the end, which I've only there's only one rider I have seen him match his acceleration, and it's Slovenian countryman Primož Roglič. Nobody else has been able to match that final acceleration. So, as I said before, this kid is still young, and he's gonna still improve. So we are in for a long period of Tadej Pogačar domination, in my opinion.
I think so. I think so. It was something to watch, and I can't help but wonder if he, for whatever reason, didn't have this dominant lead. How fast he could have gone. So let's say he needed to make up 5 minutes instead of just marking everybody till the end like he did today. If we saw a scenario where he was going up the entire mountain as fast as he could, who knows what we would see?
Yeah, that's a difficult one, JB. Especially because in the last week of the Tour de France, you can see that everybody's quite equal. Especially those 3-4 guys together. They can't really drop each other anymore. So that's why it's always interesting, whenever you race a Grand Tour and you can get a good cushion early on, you should take it, because you never know what's going to happen. Everybody's getting tired, and Pogačar for sure is super tired too. It's just like, okay, he wins those stages, and he has a young baby face, and we probably don't see the suffering so much. But I can tell you, he's super tired too, for sure.
Yeah, and I'll just mention this: if anyone's listening to this show and you didn't hear today's coverage of the Move podcast with Lance and George, and Johan joined us as well, you should go listen to it, because we don't really have time to get into it here. But a really great, fascinating discussion about the politics of being a champion in the Tour, and how the French treat you, how the media treats you, and how they're going to treat Pogačar.
Yeah.
Not only just during this tour, but going ahead. Really interesting conversation and worth a listen. The other thing I was really looking forward to asking you about, Johan, is yesterday. Let me back up. It's very easy if, like, say, you're betting on who's going to be duking it out at the end. We knew who those 4 players were, but you also threw out David Gaudu as a potential winner for today. And that's not just one of those consistent top guys. So what I wanted to know is, what things are you looking at when you pick a rider like that for a win?
Yeah. Well, I said yesterday that it would be ideal for Pogačar to get away with Gaudu on the last climb, and then basically gift him the stage. That would help with his image in France, and probably build some goodwill. Now that didn't happen, but Gaudu is a rider. First of all, he's a great talent. Also, same as Pogačar, ex-winner of Tour de l'Avenir. From what I hear, he has these great results, great power output, power to weight ratio is amazing. Super talent for climbing, not a great time trialist, so it's going to be difficult for a guy like Gaudu to win a big tour. But he was up there. He was up there all the time. He had one really bad day, which basically threw away all of his chances for a good GC, which was on the unluckily for him, the stage of the Mont Ventoux, 2 times over the Ventoux. From what I hear, he got a sunstroke and got really sick during the stage, was vomiting on his bike, and lost a lot of time that day. I don't remember how much, but I lost a lot of time. But these things this is something you can come back from in a Grand Tour. You take it easy for a little bit, if you can call it take it easy, but at least try to recover during a few stages. And the last few mountain stages, he was always up there. Yesterday, for example, he was the fourth best rider. You had the three guys up, and he was fourth in the stage. Looked really good. And I just thought by myself, French rider, the French have won one stage in this Tour de France. Stage one.
The very first stage. Yeah, they probably thought this is going to be our year.
Yeah.
After that first win.
Yeah. And also Française des Jeux, they had a bad tour. AG2R, the other team, I mean, they had a stage win, but not with a French rider. And so today was ideal for a guy like Gaudu, pure climber, short stage, 129 kilometers. So he went on the Tourmalet with the hope that he could create a big enough gap and then make it to the finish on Les Ardennes. That was obviously going to be very difficult, because we've seen every single mountain stage that Team Ineos was trying to keep the breakaway within reach and try to give it a go for the stage win, which they didn't manage, but at least every single time there was a probability they did it. Today, Gaudu was the victim of that. I think that maybe he would have had a better chance if he didn't attack, wait until the last climb, and then try to be there with these three guys and maybe take advantage of the surveillance amongst those three top riders and have a chance for the stage win. He definitely has the climbing legs and the condition for it. So yeah, I was thinking yesterday that would be definitely a candidate if it was not one of the favorites who won, and also thinking about how nice it would be for Pogačar to get the French people and especially the French media on his side. But it was too good to be true. It would have been really nice, but at least he was up there. He was, he was at some point he was having a go, and if he could have been joined by a few guys, that maybe he would have a chance. But it was, once they get on the Tourmalet and you see that Ineos is setting a tempo. The tempo of Ineos was slower than Gaudu's tempo, but of course, he had to put in that big effort to create that gap and then maintain it in the downhill and in the flat before the Ardennes. So, but at the end of the day, he still hung in there for a while, which is a proof that he's really in great shape.
And Enric Mas looked good today. It wasn't quite enough, but that added some excitement
for Enric Mas. I think it's a good way to finish the tour. I mean, it's not finished yet. He still needs to do the time trial. But at least it was, I think, for him and for Movistar, quite a disappointing tour. They did definitely not get what they came for. Also with Superman Lopez, got a few bad days and completely fell back in the GC. But, there's always positive things to take away from a tour. So I think Enric Mas, this will be good for his head. Yesterday's stage, he was not great. And also on the Ventoux, he didn't perform as he expected. So he was further down in the GC than he expected. Now he will probably come out of the Tour de France with a good feeling. And we know that for Movistar, the Tour of Spain is important. So they will want to send their strongest squad there with Enric Mas as one of the leaders. So it's going to be good for his motivation. He tried. You could see that he was having difficulties with those three other guys, but he could stay in there. Got dropped a few times and then gave it a go at the end. But the gap he created was more the result of these three guys looking at each other. I don't think he had the legs to make it to the finish. You could say, okay, well, Pogačar could have just sat on and see what happened, but if Pogačar didn't go and get him, then for sure Carapaz would have attacked and would have caught Enric Mas or even Vingegaard. So at the end, Enric Mas finished up fourth, which was the place that he was basically deserving. seeing what his performance was on the last climb. Anyway, good comeback from him.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, what we saw was a further dropping down of Rigoberto Urán. Yesterday had a not so good day. He lost some time. I read somewhere that all of us, he felt good during the stage, and all of a sudden, with like 6 kilometers to go, all of a sudden he felt empty. Tried to manage that difference, limit the losses. He could do that, reasonably. But today was more of the same, a lot worse. Lost, I think, about 2 minutes on the top of the Tourmalet, but then lost a lot of time on Luzardiden. I mean, this stage, I have really great memories about this stage myself, and also terrible memories about this stage. 2 times.
All right, give us the best and worst moment.
2 times exactly the same stage, at least the same last 2 climbs, Tourmalet and Luzardiden finish. So my great memories was in the Vuelta of 95, Tour of Spain 95. They did a little loop into France and had to finish there. And so I was on Team Once, and I was sitting in third in GC. And so I could make the tempo up. I was sitting in third, but my teammate Jalabert was in the yellow jersey. So I had to do the work, and so I could pull the whole climb. I did basically the whole Luzardiden on my own with Jalabert and the rest of the peloton. And finally, we finished with 3 guys on top, and I finished third. But that was a great feeling I had. And then I had 3 years before, my first year in Once was also in the Tour of Spain. After the first 2 Pyrenees stages, I was sitting in second on GC. And I was, I think, 10 seconds off the yellow jersey. And that stage was terrible weather conditions. We got up the Tourmalet. I started to suffer a little bit, but I lost the connection with the first group, with the first 10 riders or so. I didn't take care about, covering myself, took risks in the downhill to come back. I made it back to the front group. And then at the bottom of Luzardiden, like straight when we hit Luzardiden, lights out. And I lost 17 minutes on the last climb.
Ouch.
Yeah, that was
and you were sitting in second.
And I was sitting in second in GC, yeah. It was super painful. But man, yeah, on those climbs, everything can happen. Obviously I was not of the same quality rider as these guys in the Tour de France, but if you have a bad moment, that's you can lose a lot of time there.
You talk about you pacing Jalabert up the mountain. We saw, as much as we keep talking about how strong these guys are, Pogacar, Carapaz, Vingegaard, look who's with them, most of the way, almost all of it. You have guys like Sepp Kuss, Castroviejo today. It's been impressive.
Yeah, these guys are amazing. Like Castroviejo, for example, to take one example, he's on Team Ineos. This guy is incredible. He's a time trial specialist. He's been. If I'm not mistaken, he's been European champion time trial. He was third or fourth at the Olympics time trial in Rio, and has developed over the years at Team Ineos as a helper, who has become better and better and better in the mountains until a point where now, in Team Ineos, he's the second best rider on the climbs. It's Carapaz, and Castroviejo is doing the job just before Carapaz is supposed to, or to try to attack. Take into account that he already did the same thing in the Giro this year. He went 100% at the service of Bernal. He was the third best rider there, because you had Daniel Felipe Martinez, who was like the super domestique for Bernal. But what Castroviejo is doing, it's unbelievable. He's in his 30s now and has now found finally his position of being the super domestique. And at some point, I've seen certain mountain stages here in the Tour de France where there was 8, 9, 10 riders left, and Castroviejo was still there with some of the leaders of the other teams. So that's obviously a great guy to have on the team. And what to say about Sepp Kuss? Sepp Kuss is a super climber, definitely finishing the Tour de France really well. And today he had a really good day. Then at some point when there were 5 riders left, I think there must have been some kind of conversation, or I mean, if you can call it a conversation, it's like, okay, 2 words probably, because they're at 180 heart rate on the climb. But we saw Sepp Kuss going to the front and start to set the pace of the group of favorites. Most likely, it's going to be Vingegaard who has asked that, maybe because he preferred to have a constant tempo rather than stopping and going, and maybe didn't want to have any risk of an attack of Carapaz. I don't know. But I personally think it's easy, of course, to say it afterwards, right? Like everything. We're lucky enough to do our podcast after the stage, so we can say, well,
sound like an expert.
If we don't, if he wouldn't have done this. But I personally think that seeing the outcome of this stage, that Sepp Kuss had a chance to win the stage. If he wouldn't have started to set the tempo and tried to hang in there, he might have had a chance to win the stage, because I think he was a little bit stronger than Enric Mas. And Enric Mas still had that, little acceleration at the end. Of course, because the other guys were looking at each other, but still, you have to go up those mountains. So imagine that Sepp Kuss would have won a second stage in the Tour de France, and a third for Jumbo-Visma. So, but you know what? It's too late to say that now, right? He did an amazing job, and at the end of the day, both Vingegaard and Carapaz have secured the podium, which is, I think, what their purpose was. So yeah, I mean, great ride by Sepp Kuss too. Great ride by Castroviejo to talk about the helpers, the gregarios. These guys are amazing.
One of the things you had a question mark. This is working backwards a little bit, but I always like when you have question marks by a rider or a team. And today it was Bahrain. Mm-hmm. They were doing some polling early, and you were trying to figure out what was going on with that.
Yeah. There's certain things in this Tour de France that I really don't understand. You have a breakaway of, altogether, and at the end they came together with 6 or 7 riders. There was one guy of Bahrain in that breakaway, Mohoric. And then all of a sudden, instead of UAE doing the tempo, all of a sudden Bahrain starts to go fast, then slow again. They probably wanted to try to put Cavendish in problems, but because at some point Bike Exchange also joined, they had a guy in the breakaway, and they called him back to the peloton. Was this what's the guy's name? Juliensen. And so I don't really understand what they were doing. I mean, okay, you can try to get Cavendish dropped, but then they still had to catch the breakaway to get enough points in the case of Colbrelli and Michael Matthews. Or they were trying to say, okay, let's try to put Cavendish in problems and he doesn't make the time cut. Well, that was not going to happen today. Cavendish form is good enough, and he has his team around him specifically to, support him over those climbs. So I tried to find another explanation, and the other explanation could have been, well, maybe they want to keep the breakaway close enough so Wout Poels has a chance to take enough points on the Tourmalet and then hope that Pogacar doesn't win the stage and secure the pocketed jersey. Wout Poels did attack behind the breakaway and caught most of them, except 2 or 3, I think. So he did score points on the Tourmalet. But, knowing that the Luzardiden was double points, and once you saw that the breakaway made no chance, then it was going to be very difficult for Poels to hang on to that jersey. He tried everything he could, that's for sure. That may have been the plan of Bahrain also. But, Pogacar is the cannibal of this Tour de France. He, once again, same as last year, goes home with 3 jerseys: yellow, white, and polka dot.
And I haven't, right when the stage ends and all the important guys finish, I have to get over here and start getting set up. I don't watch the presentations. Does Pogacar do each presentation polka dot and white jersey daily?
Yeah.
You do them all, yeah.
Well, until now it was yellow and white. But from today on, because it's the guy in second is wearing the jersey during the stage, but the actual winner or the actual leader of the jersey goes to the podium protocol and presents the jersey. Yeah. So
before we get into tomorrow, we touched on it briefly on the move earlier, but I still don't know many of the details with this police raid on the Bahrain team.
Yeah. Well, this morning I woke up to that news, so I think it happened last night. Bahrain, Team Bahrain, all of them. They in their communication they said that they don't know the reason. They were not given a reason, which I think is strange already. But apparently in France that's possible. So they got a visit from the police. Different sources tell me different things, but I've heard at one point that there was 50 policemen showing up at the hotel of Team Bahrain.
Is that just the local police, or is it some sort of
this is a special
national?
Yeah, this is a special entity of the police.
Okay,
and they did the same thing last year. There was some rumors about Nairo Quintana and some of the personal staff he had with him. And they showed up, they did a whole show. They took 2 of these guys into custody to question them. Big show, lots of speculations in the newspapers. And at the end of the day, there was nothing. So this situation here with Bahrain is a little bit of the same. Apparently, from what I've been reading, Bahrain has had some good results. They have some strong riders and they have some really good results. But specifically in the Dauphiné Libéré, there's one rider, Marc Padun, the Ukrainian guy, won 2 stages. And from what I read, there are 2 French team directors who want to remain anonymous, who have voiced their concern about that rider and that team. And apparently that's enough to start an investigation. And this police force showed up. Apparently they confiscated the phones and the laptops of the riders and the staff. In full, 50 police guys, that's something. The only thing, what I've heard from a friend of mine is that this specific, and this is where politics also, it's other politics, not race politics, but the Tour de France, of course, is a great event. It's a big event. It's the biggest showcase in France of sports, probably bigger than Roland Garros. And so apparently this specific division of the police, they are also depending on the subventions. They have a budget and they need to have their budget approved every year. And I'm just saying what I've been told, but I'm, knowing how it works in France, I can believe that's the case. If they have one intervention during the Tour de France, which obviously is, gets a lot of attention, it's a lot easier for them to have their budget approved. And so they just look for something. I don't know. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. I don't know. Maybe I don't know if there's something in Team Bahrain. I don't know. But just based on performances and based on comments of two French team directors that say, well, we are concerned. This is not normal. This guy goes too fast. Apparently, that's enough in France to start something like that and come with full squad, and of course the press is informed. I'll try to find out more about it through somebody that I know there on the team, but it's sad. It's sad that this has to happen during the Tour de France. If they have concerns, I mean, they can do whatever as soon as the Tour de France is finished. They can still go.
It's not a good look.
No, it's bad.
It's not a good look for the sport globally.
It's bad. It's bad. But they don't care.
Huh.
These guys don't care. It's an organization called OCLAESP, OCLAESP. So it's an abbreviation. It's an abbreviation of some specific division within the French police.
I just find it so hard to believe they can confiscate your personal phones and computer. I can't get my phone from my teenage daughter.
Me neither.
How?
Me neither.
How are they able to do that?
It's like if I ask her to show something on her phone, she won't hand it to me. She would show it, but wants to keep it in her hand.
Yeah.
It's like, maybe we need to.
Oh, by the way, I think Johan and Lance and I should do a whole different podcast about raising teenage girls.
Oh, wow. Yeah. You already had a taste of it, JB, during one of our pre-show. Man, yeah, it's crazy. It's funny though, that.
And George has a teenage daughter as well, but I guess she's a lot more cooperative than maybe ours are.
Well, we must be doing something wrong. I don't know. That would be an interesting podcast.
Okay. Stick around because we're going to talk about tomorrow's stage. Very, very important. Could be historic again with this unbelievable Tour de France. But first, here's Lance to tell you about one of our sponsors.
Today's show also brought to you by Roka. Founded by amazing athletes for amazing athletes. Everything these guys and gals make is amazing. Performance shades, their new Matador, check. Prescription glasses, amazing, check. Titanium aviators, check. Everything about it is incredible. Unbelievably lightweight, best optics on the market. They never slip, they never fall. And look around the Peloton. Tons of pros rocking the Rokas. Head on over to Roka, ROKA.com. That's Roka.com and enter the move, for 20% off at checkout.
Okay, tomorrow's going to be very, very exciting. There's a lot of anticipation built around Mark Cavendish breaking. He's now tied with the Eddie Merckx record of 34 wins just in the Tour de France alone. So much hype around him breaking it either tomorrow or in Paris on the last day. Two opportunities, but tomorrow's opportunity is not going to be easy to execute for Deceuninck, even for the great Deceuninck Quick-Step, is it?
No, I think it's going to be difficult. Ideally, the best story would be that he doesn't break it tomorrow and he breaks it on the last day on the Champs-Élysées. I keep coming back to this. We talk like Mark Cavendish. He just needs to get to the possibility of a bunch sprint and he's going to win it. Right? It's not that easy. It's like, okay, Mark, just win another one tomorrow so you get that out of the way.
Right.
I think tomorrow, 207 kilometers, not flat at all. Not flat, a lot of tired bodies. Now, a lot of tired bodies, that works both ways, right? The Koenig Quick-Step, there's still 8 riders. So obviously, they still have a goal. They they work for their sprinter, so I think they do have the possibility they have the strength to control the breakaway. It's going to depend how big the breakaway is. So the question is, who has power left to go into breakaways? Number one, but then number two, I cannot imagine how many guys will have the instructions of their team director. Okay, guys, this is the last opportunity. Until now, only 8 teams in the Tour de France of the 23 present teams have won a stage. Most of those teams know that they're not going to win in Paris. And most of those teams know that they're not going to win the time trial. So tomorrow is like, okay, this is it. Just whatever you have left, just get it out and go in the breakaway. And then we'll see.
What would the I don't, maybe you know the answer to this. What at this point in the tour, after 18 stages, what would be a normal distribution of wins among teams?
I don't
12
know.
or more?
Yeah, at least half. At least half.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Koenig Quickstep have won 5 already. So, Alaphilippe, the first one, and then 4 by Cavendish. So yeah, I mean, I'm not sure it's going to be a bunch sprint tomorrow. I've seen the profile a little bit, and it's not flat. It's going to be attacks from the start, and the guys who are going to go in those attacks, they have to have some strong legs, because there's little climbs. There's a Cat 4 climb. I could say, okay, everybody gets over a Cat 4 climb, yeah, but how fast can you get over the Cat 4 climb, right? Now, the Koenig Quickstep, of course, they are super, super experienced, and they kind of know how to manage the breakaways and the moves in the beginning. I think it's 50-50. I'm not sure. I'm not convinced it's going to be a bunch sprint tomorrow, and I would actually like it if it's not a bunch sprint. That Cavendish, I would like him to break the record. Of course, I mean, I would want it for him. But it would be so nice if he does it in Paris.
Well, it's an interesting decision for Koenig Quickstep to make. If there's a break up the road, how hard do they want to bury themselves to pull it back, or make it an easier day?
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of the guys can soft pedal in the time trial, and then it gives you a couple days to rest up for Paris.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I mean, even if they work tomorrow, they'll still, most of those guys, almost all of them, will not go fast in the time trial. And the stage in Paris by itself already is kind of a natural lead out to a bunch sprint. They're not going to be. I mean, they're going to have to pull a lot on Paris, but probably not by themselves, because everybody's nervous. The teams, the inertia of the race kind of provokes the bunch sprint. But they're going to try. They're going to try at the beginning to create a situation where there's a small group going, and that's relatively easy to control. But also, if you look, I mean, at the end, it's not flat, so there may be an attack. Even if it's all together, there may be some attacks at the end, and we haven't seen that yet. A late attack escaping the bunch. That's a possibility too tomorrow. It's not guaranteed, even if it's all together, that it's going to be a bunch sprint at the end.
That'll be exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to it. We may see a record fall, which is unbelievable, but yeah. Let's jump into some questions here, shall we?
We will. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Thanks for the amazing coverage. I have a question for the time trial coming up on Saturday. We all know the GC guys will be putting 100% through the course. Lance and George have also said that it's a semi-rest day for a majority of the peloton that's not going for results. My question is, what is the strategy of the team members of the GC guys? Is there a strategy to their ride in the course and intel they can provide for the GC guys? That's from SC.
That's a good question. That's a very good question. Well, it depends. I mean, normally the GC guys, they for sure go 100%. And if those teams have on their team a good time trialist, and I'm the director, I would ask that time trialist to go full gas, at least the first half. Go as fast as he can, the first half of the time trial. Follow him and take your own time splits. For example, if it's 30 kilometers, every 2 kilometers, you take a split of that guy who goes full gas as if the time trial was only 15 kilometers. So then you're sure that you have fast times and you don't have to rely on what you get from time splits from the rivals and through Radio Tour. You have your own time schedule. I used to do that always. Have a guy go early and fast for half of the race, because then later in the day, if your leader starts, at least until you have the first time split, which may be after 10 or 12 kilometers, you already have 5 or 6 different own reference points, and you know if your guy is on a good rhythm or if he's a little bit behind. Or normally, if it's the leader, he'll go at least as fast or maybe even faster than that guy, even if the guy he still has to get to the finish. So it's not like his race finishes at 15 kilometers. The first guy, he does those 15 kilometers and then he just keeps going to the finish, but don't necessarily need the times anymore then.
And as a director, are you watching each rider to see parts of the course that are issues, and do they radio back? Hey, this corner, you need more braking, or you can go full gas through a turn. Are they giving you any sort of intel like that?
Yeah, the riders that go first, they obviously, some of them go easy. Of course, when you go easy, the corners are not the same. You cannot really give good information on corners. I mean, first of all these guys know the time trial. They've done it already. They're going to pre-ride it again tomorrow in the morning of the time trial. Maybe not the whole course. Maybe half in the car, half on the bike. I don't know, just to save energy. But at least they know the course. And then you have the certain points on the course in race circumstances, which you get from riders of your team that go early. And also you watch TV. You look, for example, a time trial specialist, let's say, a Stefan Kuhn, who's, great specialist. He's going to go full gas. So you try to watch him on TV and look at corners. And that's all more information you get. Then you can relay that through to your leader later on the day.
I forget about that. Some of the top time trialists could be going very early to give you a look.
Yeah.
And the weather looks good in that area, by the way. Okay. A wet time trial.
It's very possible that it's not a GC guy who wins the time trial. There's some guys who have been waiting for this for a few days now, so they've been saving up, and even these guys have been spending so much energy, so much power, that normally the last day it's difficult for these guys to win the time trial.
And I won't even ask you your time trial prediction until tomorrow. We'll save that. All right.
Okay, I'll think about it. Yeah, I'll think about it.
Yeah. Here's another one. I have a question to Johan on staffing of a typical World Tour team. How many people work in that team? What different roles do they have, et cetera? Mm-hmm. That's from Adam in the Czech Republic.
Mm-hmm. Well, nowadays, I think World Tour teams, they have between 25 and 30 riders, cyclists. And in terms of staff, if you add the staff to that, I think you can easily get to 75 people in total with the riders. So 45 to 50 staff and 30 riders. And it's becoming, big organizations, the World Tour teams. You have 7 or 8 or 9 soigneurs, masseuses. You have 7, 8, or even 10 mechanics. You have 4, 5, or 6 directors. You have coaches. You have bus drivers. You have medical staff. You have chiropractors, cooks. All these positions, you have them times 2 or sometimes times 3, because these teams don't only race the Tour de France. They're going to start other races. Sometimes they're on three different races at the same time. One team is racing the Tour, another team is racing in Belgium, and another team is racing in, I don't know, Hungary, for example, or Turkey or wherever,
Mm-hmm.
So no, it's a big operation.
Are most of those, let's take the riders out of the equation, how many people are full-time staff versus contract
almost all
for
of
just
them.
the events?
Almost all of
really?
them. Yeah.
They spend...
Yeah, the top teams, they have
Wow.
it's all full-time staff. Yeah.
Wow. One more here. This is Kirk from Boston. My question for Johan. I've always been fascinated with the Basque Country and the riders from there. Are there any other small pockets in Europe where the geography shapes such unique riders?
That's a good question. I mean, the Basque Country it is amazing. It is a bit of a contradiction. Of course, Basque Country it's hard terrain, but it's also one of the places in Spain where it rains the most. The weather can be terrible there. So it's actually a bit strange to see so many good bike riders coming from there. It's more to do also with the culture. Cycling is just super, super, super popular in the Basque Country. There is only one race on the European calendar next to the Tour de France that has the fans and the excitement similar to the Tour de France, and it's the Basque Country. They are out in masses, whether it's good weather, bad weather. Tour of the Basque Country is incredible. On the climbs, it's Tour de France, scenery. Like a wall of people you get to, and it just opens at the end. The difference is that
flags flying,
a lot of Basque flags, yeah, but they cheer for everybody, and they know everybody's name. It's something like that. At the beginning, when I was first racing in the Basque Country, it was weird. I mean, no matter where you are in the race, they know your name and they cheer for you. They cheer your name. Yeah.
Wow.
Other places. I don't know. Maybe Slovenia in the future.
Right. Well, yeah. When you have, and we've talked about this in previous years, when you have a star, the best in the world, all these kids right now
absolutely,
that are 10, 11, 12 years old, looking up to Pogacar and Roglic, and they're thinking, I want to ride the Tour de France one day. Yeah. And it's a machine that gets going. It's a cycle.
It's a ball that gets rolling, like for example, in the Basque Country also, when one of the things that is really, I mean, there's a lot of bike races there. Now, if you look on the calendar of the non-professional categories, there's so many races in the Basque Country. It's just super popular, so it's a lot more likely that there's going to be good cyclists coming from there because there's so much race opportunity.
All right. Well, great questions. We appreciate all these. Thanks for doing the double up today. Well, the triple. You did the triple today.
Triple, yeah.
The move, La Movida, and now JB Squared. You're working hard for your money, Johan. No surprise there, though.
It's late now, but anyway, it's fine. I like it. Love it.
If you'd like to write to Johan and ask a question, your time's running out, but send those JB Squared, JB2@wedo.team, and we will talk tomorrow, Johan.
Okay, JB. Thanks. Speak tomorrow.